who were talking about the boundary between two courtyards, or essentially whether we can join up two courtyards or whether we can separate two courtyards. And yesterday we learnt in the second Mishnah of the 7th chapter that if there was a wall between two courtyards, kotel shebein shtei chatzarot, gavoa asara v'rachav arba'a, 10 hand breadths were high and 4 thick, then we prepare 2 eruvs. In other words, as soon as the wall is 10 high and 4 thick, we need to prepare 2 eruvs for the 2 courtyards. In other words, they don't join into one. 2, but not 1. And then we learned, by the way, that if there's a gap in the wall, okay, maybe we have a choice between 2 or 1. Maybe the 2 courtyards can be joined. So there are certain kinds of divisions that divide courtyards and certain kind of gaps that can unite them. And as we go through the rest of chapter 7, we're going to learn more about, if you like, dividing and uniting. And we're going to really I just wrote some principles out for you just to try to get the idea, to get a preview on what we're going to see in the Mishnah. And we've really got 3 kinds of cases. First, we got a hard barrier, like the wall that's 10 tefachim high. We got a dividing wall. Between 2 courtyards, we need 2 Eruvin. Second case is where there's no barrier. So they're one space. Maybe there's an enormous breach in a dividing wall, or we'll find out later today, maybe we got a ditch, but it's filled in. If there's no barrier, we need 1 eruv. And the third example is the middle example, where there is a barrier, but it's permeable. Maybe there's a door in the wall, or a gateway, or maybe there's a bridge over the ditch or under the ditch. Maybe there is a barrier, but we can somehow get over the barrier. And in the third situation, the residents can choose. They can choose whether they want to make 1 or 2 Eruvin. So those are our 3 cases, and I laid them out for you on the source sheet. But if we can keep those 3 cases in mind, hard barrier, no barrier, permeable or soft barrier, then I think the Mishnah will then just become very clear and easy as we go through it. So we're going to pick up in Mishnah 3 with a ditch. Charitz, shebein shtei chatzarot, amok asara v'rachav arba. This is the mirror image of the wall that's 10 high and 4 wide. This ditch is 10 deep and 4 wide. Ma'arvin shnaim ve'ein ma'arvin echad. They make 2 Eruvin, not 1. There's no choice about it. Hard barrier, no choice, 2 eruvs. Afilu male kashel teven. Even if you fill the ditch up with stubble or straw is not, it's just not permanent stuff, or it seems not to be in the context of the ditch. Actually, we'll find a different example in a minute in the context of a wall, but we're filling this ditch in, doesn't seem to make a difference. It's a barrier. Male afar or tzorot, if it was full of earth or gravel, this is serious ditch filling. Ma'arvin echad, then we can make 1 eruv. Ve'ein ma'arvin shnaim, we make 1 eruv, but not 2. If we fill the ditch with earth or gravel, it sounds like it just doesn't exist effectively. There's no ditch. 1 eruv. What if we built a bridge over the ditch? Natan alav nesa, we're going to put a board. Same dimensions, by the way. Shehu rachav arba'at tefachim. This width of 4 tefachim, 4 hands breadth, seems to be absolutely crucial as a halachic minimum for a wall or a bridge. V'chein shtei guz traot. Guz traot are balconies. We learned about balconies when we learned about throwing from one domain into the other. And we learned, by the way, that if the balconies are high up, you can throw from one balcony to the other without entering the public domain. And here we've got 2 balconies, one opposite each other. So we can just cross directly from one courtyard into the other courtyard. There's a bridge, if you like, provided by the 2 balconies. So either we've got a board bridging the ditch, or we've got 2 balconies bridging the gap. M'arvin shnaim ve'im ratzu m'arvin echad. The residents can prepare 2 eruvin, or if they wish, only 1. This kind of permeability in the barrier seems to give them the option. Pachot mikan, less than a 4 tefach bridge, m'arvin shnaim ve'ein m'arvin echad. They make 2 eruvin and not 1. If the bridge is not 4 tefachim wide, it's not a bridge. It doesn't permeate the barrier. There are 2 different domains. What if we make the barrier out of straw? Rather than filling in the ditch with straw, we make the barrier out of straw. We come to a different result, actually. Mat ben, shebein shtei chatzerot, a heap of straw that's between 2 courtyards. Gavoa asarat tefachim, 10 tefachim high. M'arvin shnaim ve'ein m'arvin echad. They make 2 eruvin, not 1. Somehow the barrier, the filling in the ditch with straw doesn't seem to be effective. But making a barrier of straw is effective, and it splits the 2 courtyards into 2. They make 2 eruvin. Elu machilin mikan. So some animals are eating the straw from one side. Ve'elu machilin mikan, and some other animals are eating the straw from the other side. So we're going to eat into this barrier. We might be eating into this barrier it's not clear from the Mishnah whether we're eating into it on Shabbat or before Shabbat. Nitma'at hateven me'asrat tefachim. I think this must happen before Shabbat. So the animals have eaten the straw, and now the level has dropped below 10 tefachim. So we start off with a barrier that's higher than 10 tefachim, but we end up with a barrier that's lower than it. M'arvin echad ve'ein m'arvin shnaim. And they make 1 eruv, not 2. So that's the principle. If it's not 10 tefachim when Shabbat comes in, it's not a proper barrier. And as you can see, we've got these 3 cases. We got the hard barrier, the dividing wall between 2 courtyards, whether it's built of straw or whether it's a real wall. We got no barrier. Maybe there's a hole in the wall, or maybe it's a filled-in ditch, or maybe there's a permeable barrier. So we got a door or a gateway or a bridge over the barrier, or we have these 2 balconies which are next door to one another. And in that situation, the rabbis give the residents the right to choose whether they make 1 eruv or 2.